Yeah.
All right, go.
Drove me nuts. Okay.
All right, let's jump into the show. We got a Cavs game, a Guards game, some draft stuff to get into today. It's all brought to us by FanDuel. March Madness is here, and FanDuel is giving you the chance to get in on the action like never before. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when their first $5 bet wins. That is $200 extra bucks to use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories. You can even pick who's going to cut down the nets. There was some crazy Sweet 16 action last night. If you want to bet on tonight's games or the Elite Eight, you better be using FanDuel. Just visit FanDuel.com/UCSS and get in on all the college hoops action all tournament long. We start today, though, with the Cleveland Guardians, the undefeated, the 1-0 Cleveland Guardians, and there are two main takeaways that I want to get to from yesterday's game. We will start with, or we'll get to Emmanuel Clase, but we start with Kyle Manzardo. Jay, if he plays like he did yesterday for a large portion of this season, the Guardians lineup's going to look a lot better than it did on paper 48 hours ago.
Well, absolutely, without question. The question is, can he do it?
Yeah.
It's one day. What I loved about it was against lefties. And that's what this lineup needs. It needs a left-handed hitter that can hit left-handed pitching, because it's like having another righty in the lineup. And I think that's one of the things they would love to have, is another power-hitting right-handed hitter in this lineup. Manzardo does not look the part, does he?
No.
Does not look like he's going to be
Wade Boggs?
He is. He's. I've talked to him before at spring training. I'm sure you have.
Yeah.
My takeaway was, wow, this guy's really unexcitable.
Very quiet, very reserved.
Low key.
Yep.
And
Yep.
that's okay, because our other superstar, although he's physically demonstrative in Hosey,
Yep.
he doesn't say anything either.
Right.
So I think he fits in well with the group. I heard a stat after the game. This is just the third time in Major League history that a player has had a double-triple homer in the season opener.
Oh, wow.
Just the third time. It's the only time that he's done it against someone pitching from the same side, lefty-lefty, And when you look at that, I think that's huge. It is just one game, but his balance at the plate, you mentioned the similarities to Wade Boggs, his balance during his swings, even when he's hitting an off-speed pitch and he's holding his hands back. A lot of players jump. He doesn't jump. His weight is perfectly proportioned, even on curveballs. So he's trained himself over years to, when he recognizes it's a curveball, keep the lower half quiet. Don't lurch. Now you're in a position where you're at a huge disadvantage.
You're throwing your hands at it.
He stays back. He stays balanced all the way through his swing. It's a thing of beauty. And I got to tell you, I'm not projecting he's going to do that every day. There's no way he will. But if this is a slice of the man we're going to see for the rest of the season, I love it.
Yeah.
I think it's fantastic.
Well, Bull and I were encouraged yesterday that he was even in the lineup, because Reagans is one of the best lefties in the American League. Skubal obviously is the best. He won the Cy Young last year. Reagans is in that next tier down. So if they're willing to play him, if Stephen Vogt's willing to start him against Reagans, then that tells me he's going to be in the lineup every day.
Yeah, it looks
and he
like
needs
it.
to be.
I
Even
agree.
before, I don't care if you went 0 for 3 with 3 strikeouts. I'd say the same thing. We said about Josh Naylor, you have to learn how to hit lefties. And Naylor eventually did. And Manzardo, if you're going to be an impact player in this league as a left-handed batter, you have to be able to hit lefties.
Super surprised on the home run, because he really wasn't looking like he was out there trying to swing for the fences. Like you said, he had his weight back, and it looked like almost, if you look at it, it looked like he didn't even take much of a long stride. It was a really compact swing, and I was surprised at his level of power. He's not a great athlete, as we talked about. He looks like he's running and his whole body is hurting. But if you're going to get rid of Jimenez and you're going to get rid of Naylor, and you got a guy like Manzardo, now this is where you have to develop guys. You need him and Big Christmas, and you need Lane Thomas, that trade to work out. But if he's going to hit like this, then we don't really have much of an issue with getting rid of people. We like the fact that he can drive in runs. If he's going to be 3 for 4 and all these extra base hits, we will take that every day or twice on Sunday.
Sure. That's a big addition to the lineup. A couple things. One thing back to what you said, you thought that maybe he wouldn't be in the lineup. It's funny how confidence can be trickled from manager to player.
Absolutely.
Particularly in game one. And I like what you said about the matchup. If I'm dreaming of the perfect matchup for Manzardo, yesterday was not it. In fact, that might have been the scenario that concerned me most. But it's so weird how I remember when I was playing high school baseball, I wanted to be the leadoff hitter in my junior year, but I didn't know if it was going to happen. And my manager, right before the season started, pulled me aside and said, listen, you're ready for this. You can do it. And in a weird way, a calm came over me because I immediately thought, well, this guy's a baseball lifer. He's seen it all. If he thinks that as a junior, I'm ready to do that in a lineup that had some really good bats behind me, I'm like, okay. I felt empowered, and I felt almost like I had a safety net to fail. Mm-hmm. Now, who knows what would have happened if I'd have started, 2 for 12 in the first 3 games or whatever. But I felt that, okay, if he believes in me, I believe in myself even more. And I know these guys are grown men, but it can still work that way. In reverse, also, I think Clase is still carrying some hangover from last year. And we're going to talk about him later.
Well, we might as well.
I mean, if you want to get into him
right
now,
into it.
Jason.
I obviously, he didn't do what he was supposed to do. He left some pitches in some bad spots. But one of the things I'm most fascinated to see in the month of April and May, what's up here now for Clase?
So it's funny you say that because I said, my reaction yesterday was probably the same as everybody else's. I'm like, well, the clubbies barely got the puke out of his shoes, and now he's vomiting on his feet again.
That's great.
Here we go again.
That's so true.
But I went back this morning, and I looked at the StatCast.
Yeah, I watched the inning again.
He actually threw some good pitches.
He did. The ball, the double was 100-mile-an-hour.
6 inches off the plate.
Low.
Then he just turned on it. Do we have it? You pull up the Pasquantino one?
It was a great piece of hitting.
So, let's look at that. Look at the pitch that he hit. It's 6 inches off the plate inside. Vinny just turned on it and pulled it down the line. He did his job. Both guys did their job. You threw a 100-mile-an-hour cutter right there. That's not supposed to end up on the grass.
No, it's not.
Pasquantino's a really good hitter. He did what he's supposed to do. Okay, fine. So now go to the next one, the Salvi Perez.
Yeah, now this was the interesting one.
Well, I thought it was a good pitch.
It was a good pitch, but it had no movement to it.
So it's on the outside edge, and Perez flips it. Now the expected.
It was 100 miles an hour too.
Yeah. It's going to be a hit. When you take launch angle and exit velocity and everything else, it's going to be a hit almost every time. The location wasn't bad. The location's where you want it. Now,
I agree with that, Jay, but quickly, there was no movement to it. And that reminded me of young Clase. When he first got here, I'm like, okay, this guy's special in one way. He throws hard, but there's no movement to his fastball.
But if you bring up the Perez, actually, the first one is the one that Perez should have hit in the water because he missed bad on that.
Yes, he did.
That was middle. That one should wind up banging off the wall or going into the seats. So the reason I want to go back,
if I'm not mistaken, that wasn't 100 miles an hour, but it was a fastball, it was a cutter, right?
Yeah, they're both cutters. Yeah.
Okay, they were both cutters.
But for last year when he was having his problems, he was missing his spots and he was leaving everything up. And so I went back and pulled the Kerry Carpenter, the Aaron Judge, and the Stanton home runs.
Yeah.
If you have
Which one do you want first?
Carpenter.
Well, Carpenter was a big miss, right?
Carpenter, you could see it's the sixth pitch, number 6. It's right in his nitro zone.
Yeah, that's not good.
Now look at the Judge one. The Judge one was on the outside corner, but it was up. It was elevated. And Aaron's too big of a guy. If you throw that there, he's going to, he can drive that out, which is what he did. And then the Stanton one. So and everything's up again, up. So when you look at where he was yesterday, where his location was yesterday, it's where he wants to be. The Royals just did it was a good piece of hitting on both of those guys. So I'm actually not as concerned after looking at that as I was watching it live, where it was like, this guy's a mess. He's broken. Last year. Fausto Carmona was broken by the Red Sox in that playoff series, and he was never the same pitcher again because the Red Sox realized, I can't remember now, was it a slider he couldn't throw for a strike? So if you just spit on that, you're eventually going to get a fastball. Yeah. And it changed his career forever.
Right. Yeah,
and so you wondered about Clase, and I'm like, man, is this going to break him, or is he going to be able to come back from that? And then to get hit yesterday, you think, no, this is not good. But when you go back and you actually watch it, they're not going to be 100% on location and movement. But he was hitting his spots yesterday. So that is encouraging to me. That tells me
as a
it's
pitcher,
just a bad day.
As a pitcher, sometimes you could be hitting your location, your spots, and all that, and they just hitting you hard.
Oh, no, that totally happens.
And that messes with your psyche a little bit because you can't say it's my mechanics, or my placement, my velocity.
You start questioning your stuff.
Yeah, right. They're like, Now, it's one thing for the Yankees to do that. You come back all the whole another year, and now this what's his name? Pasquantino?
No, the guys that hit him yesterday are great hitters.
I know.
They are legit.
But I was
great hitters.
But that second time he came up, when he blew the save, I said, this guy has his number. He coming up here looking to swing. And it looks like it doesn't matter who's going up there right now. They're just hitting the ball hard.
Bull, I will throw this out because it is a debate. Bull questioned after they scored the run, why were they pitching to Salvi?
Right.
There are two distinct schools of thought there. I say before you can even go down that rabbit hole, you absolutely have to ask yourself who's pitching.
Right.
That makes a difference. Depending on the pitcher and their likelihood to throw strikes and to get ground balls and to induce double plays, you have to take into account who's pitching. I didn't hate that they pitched to him there. I didn't. I know Bull said you got to walk him there.
Yeah.
But and Bull even said I don't care if it's the winning run.
Right. You're putting the
That's
winning
why I don't walk.
You're putting the winning run on base.
And I'm not in the business of doing that with nobody out.
Don't you want to show some faith in your guy too a little bit?
Well, here's the problem with that. Normally, yes. But do you really want to open the season with Clase on the mound for a blown save that turns into an L? Yesterday was bad. It wasn't a debacle. The debacle comes if he does walk Salvi and he scores, and that's the ball game. Now your guy has to walk off the field again
just like
before there's 3 outs.
Yeah.
And that's a bad thing to do, especially the way he finished last year.
Right.
So I do think a lot of things, you can take the baseball book in that situation and throw it out the window. You're thinking about the pitcher that you have on the mound, the likelihood that he can get a double play, also the psyche of your pitcher, and what the potential damage is if you do blow that situation. I didn't want to lose it 5-4 with Clase on the hill, and I'm sure Vogt didn't either. Vogt, by the way, after the game was asked about it, he goes, "Look, he gave up a run."
Yeah,
that happens.
Yeah,
when somebody else gives up a run, nobody says anything. But when a guy who gives up a run, who never gives up a run, all of a sudden it's like, oh, he failed. He wasn't concerned at all. And
he's not going to admit if he is.
No, he's not. But like you, I went back and I actually looked at the video again.
Yeah.
I wanted to see the location of the pitches, the speed of the pitches.
Yeah.
The guys hit really good pitches.
Right.
And that's going to happen. And by the way, really good hitters did it. It wasn't like they got dinged by the 6, 7, 8 hitters.
Right.
Good hitters did it.
Yeah.
And the beauty of it is it allowed the Guardians to win in dramatic fashion. 4-3 win would have been nice. 7-4 win was way better, especially how they got it. Now, Gaddis in the 8th got out of a major jam with a lot of luck.
Yep.
And some great defense. Kansas City ran themselves out of that inning. What are you doing?
I don't know what Biggio's the one that screwed that up.
But my God, as the third base coach, you're telling them anything to this side, you're staying put.
Right.
And he was going on contact.
Yeah.
And it wasn't. It was bad.
So bottom line on Clase, I'm not as concerned today as I was yesterday.
Good.
It's unfortunate that it happened coming off the heels of a postseason when he wasn't good. Like he wasn't good. I just showed you how badly he was missing his spots against really good hitters. Yesterday was totally separate from that. I thought he did hit his spots, and they just put good swings on it, which good hitters are going to do.
Yeah.
So,
sometimes I get scared because closers are just like field goal kickers. Like, sometimes they can strike it good. It's looking like it's going right down the middle of the nets, and all of a sudden it curves 10 feet to the left or hooks 15 feet to the right. Listen, sometimes there's no rhyme or reason why closers lose it. They run through lineups. They're great all year, and then all of a sudden they hit a stretch where now it seems like they can't get people out. It seems like bloops find little holes. Runners are getting on base. And I just don't want it to get to a point where we talk about this a month into the season where it's like, are we looking kind of at, like, is this an aberration? What are the best days behind them? I'm not being a knee-jerk guy,
but the thing is, if that happens, it's not like the cupboard's bare.
Right.
You've got two other guys on the roster that you could say, okay, let's plug them into the ninth
y'all
inning
been waiting
role.
to get Cave Smith in there.
No, I'm not. I don't know that. I'm not ready for that yet. I got to see a lot more from Clase, but eventually Smith's going to be a lights-out closer in this league, whether it's with the Guardians or someone else.
It'll be here.
I think it will too.
You were waiting to get him in there.
I think it will be too.
No, eventually they're just going to.
They have lost control from him. And with Clase, you mentioned that with relievers, all of a sudden one day they wake up and the magic is gone.
Yeah.
I'm not suggesting that that's the case with Emmanuel Clase, but we all know, covering this game as long as we have, when it goes, it can go in a hurry. And a lot of it is between the ears, and you just never know what's going to happen and when it's going to, suddenly go away. Other things that impressed you, that jumped out at you yesterday about the opener?
Ben Lively getting called out. We haven't talked about that. Being called in last moment. And I guess they made him aware Tanner wasn't feeling well the day before.
Yeah.
And so they told him this is a possibility, but totally out of his routine. Pitchers are creatures of routine, and to have that opening day thrown on you like that, and he gave up the 3-run shot to Pasquantino, and otherwise he did a great job of keeping a pretty decent Royals lineup in check.
Yeah, very good lineup. There were a couple loud outs, shots to the warning track. But hey, those are soft outs in the book. It doesn't matter where they're caught.
Why they be doing Ben Lively like that?
I know. Is it?
Why? I would be pissed off. I'm sorry. I would be. Now listen, I held y'all down all last year. I was the best pitcher in the rotation the first half of the season. You get to the postseason, I get it. You got to play your best. Boyd comes in. He doesn't make the playoff roster, and then they're like, okay, opening day comes around, and all of a sudden, you're the first guy that gets the baseball.
I think that's,
I'd be kind of mad.
No,
they went to the end of the line.
They went to the end of the line, but it was. I mean, it's a huge honor. It's a big deal.
It
to
is.
These guys to pitch.
He'll now have on his resume that he was an opening day starter.
I think part of this was a reward for last year for keeping him off the roster.
Because they could have skipped. They could have just gone to 2.
They could have.
But
this keeps everyone else lined up.
It does, but I wonder if in doing this, Vogt feels that Bibby's not going to be ready tomorrow. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know that they have any more information.
That's what I wanted to ask you guys real quick before we put a bow on the Guardians. We don't know who's pitching tomorrow or Sunday yet for Cleveland.
Right.
At this point, and obviously a lot can change. It's 11:30 a.m. on Friday.
If he was sick on Thursday, if it's just food poisoning, he should be fine by Saturday.
Should be, yes.
If he's
but
not,
I was told it was a few days. So it wasn't just yesterday.
Yeah.
It was a couple of days. Now, is that 2? Is that 3? I don't know. But typically, we've all had food poisoning. If that's what it is, and let's hope that's what it is, by the way, if that's all it is, then yeah, by tomorrow he should be strong enough to go. Now,
there's fluids. He's a smaller guy. What if he's dehydrated?
Dehydrated, you get some IVs. But the other thing is, we've all been there. It saps the life out of you.
Yeah, it does. It takes the energy.
And if Steven doesn't think that he's at 100%, there's no harm in holding him to Sunday. It doesn't hurt at all to hold him until Sunday. Other things that jumped out to me, I like Stephen Kwan. Don't like Hosey in the 2-hole. From nothing I saw yesterday, I just want him with more RBI opportunities. And I also don't like it because Hosey, although he'll never come out and say, I don't want to do this, he's made comments in his career before about not loving hitting in the 2-hole. So I just want to put my best player where he's most comfortable and he can do the most damage.
Yeah.
And to get an extra at-bat every 5 games, to me, doesn't warrant moving the pillar of your lineup. I don't think it does. And time will tell. We'll know. Here's the thing. I threw this out to the guys upstairs in sports. The reason we may not know in April or May is because Hosey is a traditionally slow starter.
Yeah.
So what are we going to do if in April he's hitting 211? Well, okay.
Yeah.
That's what he does in April. Not that low, but he starts slowly. I don't know how much we're going to learn from it if he just does it for a month or 2. You might be stuck with this for at least till the All-Star break before you get a large enough sample size to see if he's still knocking in runs at the same pace as he was when he was in the 3-hole.
I think it also, if someone else emerges, I mentioned Rocchio again yesterday.
Yeah.
If somebody else emerges who slots into that 2 spot nicely, who it makes sense, you can always drop him back down to 3.
Yeah, I kind of hope that happens. I know it's early, but all right.